to the Business of Apps podcast. We invite app industry professionals to cover various topics. We promise to do our best to keep it both insightful and brief. In this episode, we have Thomas Yannopoulos, VP of Revenue Americas at Adjoe. Thomas, welcome back to the Business of Apps podcast.
Art, it's good to be back. It's been many years since you and I had a conversation on this podcast. So I'm happy to see that you're still doing it, and I'm happy to be invited back.
Oh, this is terrific. Gosh, yeah, it's been more than a couple of years. I think it was episode 50. It was ages ago because we're pushing 300, more than 200 episodes these days. So it's like 162 episodes after that one. All right. It's great to see you again. I'm going to setting the stage first. So running app marketing campaigns, marketers have several goals. I'm sure you know them better than fingers of your hand. So it is to find new users for the app, convince them to install the app, and what's next? Right. Make sure they're engaged with the app and do with it what you expect them to. Things like placing orders, signing up, subscribe, and so on. In this episode, we want to talk about app engagement, and to share with you what actually works, we have Tommy. But first, before we dive in, Tommy, please tell us about your background in tech.
Yeah, sure. So I've worked in the mobile space basically my entire professional career. So starting in 2012 or so, for one of the first ever mobile demand-side platforms called JumpTap. Went through a series of acquisitions there by Millennial Media, AOL, and eventually Verizon. So I've been a part of a lot of M&A activity at the beginning of my career, which is a really interesting kind of purview to have into things that would obviously happen later on in the mobile industry. But in a sense, I have been kind of siloed into a single industry my entire career, which is mobile performance marketing. In that same sense, it's changed dramatically. Every single year it changes, right? When I was first starting, it was the UDID on iOS was being deprecated in favor of the IDFA. Fast forward years later, the IDFA is being, I would argue it's not being deprecated, but its accessibility is being decreased dramatically by the emergence of the ATT prompt and some of the privacy regulations related to Apple. Long story short, so much has happened in this space. The platforms we use have changed. The players have changed. The tactics that user acquisition managers implement have changed. How we build tech has changed. Where we focus our time and energy to build tech has changed. And so it makes it always so interesting to stay in this space. And I'm incredibly excited for where I've landed in the last 2 years, right, which is with the team here at Adjoe. I had spent a number of years working for the wonderful people over at Remerge, who I think is the leader in re-engagement and retargeting. And then, a few years ago, I decided to join the team at Adjoe and build some really awesome products to build our presence in the Americas. And I'm incredibly proud of what we've accomplished so far.
Yeah, that's impressive, Tommy. So many names that ring a bell for me, and I'm sure for the audience in your resume for the last 10 plus years. And it's amazing what has happened since 2012. I know back in the day when the Instagram was just taken off and nobody knew about TikTok and things like that. And now we're living in all these things, not mentioning AI, generative AI specifically, which is on everybody's mind these days.
Something that I refuse to talk about because I know nothing about it, and I think if I hear the word AI many more times in my life, I'll probably have an aneurysm and just collapse.
All right, we're not going to touch that topic today. That's Wednesday, and let's not ruin your Wednesday. Now tell me about Adjoe. What services do you guys provide, and how you position yourself on the market?
Yeah, sure. Adjoe services two sides of the market, in my opinion. The two sides are the sides that basically we always talk about anyways, which is demand growth or acquisition of new customers for particular applications, and then monetization of applications. We service both realms through our flagship technology, which is called Playtime or Adjoe Arcade. Through this technology, game studios can leverage our network of publishers to increase their user acquisition, through a rewarding mechanism that allows consumers to earn currency from the publisher app that they're coming from in exchange for engaging with mobile games, right? And so what we see as a result of this technology is consumers are heavily engaged in these games, enjoying the games, playing them for a long period of time, and the game studios obviously see good performance, and as a result, they're able to acquire more and more users through us. On the flip side, we work extensively in developing publisher relationships, right? So publishers with apps that span a number of different verticals, be it the cashback and loyalty space, the travel space, the crypto space, the gaming space, so on and so forth. Apps can benefit tremendously from integrating our technology as a solution to drive incremental revenue through monetization and incremental audience engagement. That's our business. Adjoe is, I think, the leader in the space as it comes to rewards and loyalty products for applications and for acquisition. We have tremendous scale in our business. We've achieved a lot with the publishers that we've onboarded, and I think game studios trust us as a viable source through which they can consistently acquire new users while achieving their day 7 ROAS or day 7 retention or whatever target it is that they put in front of us.
That's interesting. You mentioned crypto space companies among your publishers. What kind of ads these guys are willing to place in their apps? I'm just wondering.
Yes. So when we think about ads in the context of Adjoe, it is via our very specific technology, which is Playtime, right? And what Playtime allows these publishers to do is to essentially place a white-labeled arcade solution into their application, right? So in that, we'll take an example of a company called Atlas Earth, right? Or Atlas Reality. They're one of our crypto partners today. They have their own cryptocurrency called Atlas Bucks. And today, consumers can earn Atlas Bucks by linking their credit card and buying a hamburger at Burger King, completing a survey, watching a rewarded video, etc. We exist in this application as the Atlas Arcade, where someone could go into the arcade, download one of the world's most popular games like Monopoly Go, and earn Atlas Bucks in exchange for reaching, level 5, level 10, level 20, so on and so forth. Or they can earn Atlas Bucks for playing that game for certain periods of time. That's how it functions. The beauty of our ads is that they're far different from, your rewarded video, for example, in that they don't disrupt the user's experience. It's fully the user's discretion whether or not they want to enter our arcade and earn these crypto rewards in the case of crypto.
Yeah, that's the art of good advertising, introducing a product, introducing a service without disruption. Be very thoughtful in that moment. All right. What trends in consumer behavior have you noticed regarding mobile app loyalty and engagement?
In terms of user behavior that we've seen, I think it's not necessarily a change in behavior as much as it is a change in accessibility as to how users interface with loyalty programs today. Right? We'll take an example of a partner of ours, which is Fetch. So Fetch Rewards is the largest shopping and rewards platform in all of the US today. They have something like, I think, 12 to 14 million weekly active users, so it's just an enormous app. And historically, they focused on CPG partnerships, right? So if you want a box of General Mills cereal, you can go to your local store, grab that cereal, take a snapshot of the receipt, and you can earn some Fetch points in exchange for that behavior, right? Now, what we did when we talked to Fetch was we made them aware of the fact that likely the majority of their users were also gamers, right? When we think about gaming tendencies in the US, I think over 60% of all smartphones have a game on them, and over 43% of all time spent on the smartphone in the US is spent playing mobile games, right? All this is to say, we didn't necessarily make people start gaming more, in my opinion. We just created accessibility of games to them in the context of a landscape in which they were already familiar. Consumers were already very familiar, in this case, of ways they could earn Fetch points and the importance of Fetch points in their shopping experience. Now, today, they can go to Fetch and earn for General Mills, but they can also earn by playing Candy Crush in the same way they can for buying a box of cereal, right? So we basically took a behavior they were already accustomed to, but just applied a different vertical to that behavior to create accessibility of something that most consumers like to do in their spare time as it is. So I wouldn't say there's a huge change in behavior. I think it's definitely fair to say that It wouldn't surprise me if people game more now than they used to on a platform like Fetch, right? So if there were a behavior change, it's probably the velocity at which people are playing and interacting with mobile games, or acquiring and exploring new games that they can earn points for. But generally speaking, I'm of the belief that the vast majority of people in the US and at a global level are mobile gamers. There's 2.2 billion gamers in the world today who game on their smartphones. So it's less about changing the behavior and more about creating accessibility so people can find new ways to explore and enjoy their games.
Gotcha, right. And I would argue it's really hard to change somebody's behavior when it's been formed by so many factors that are out of your reach. You're just making sure you understand what's going on, see how their current behavior, and see how we can fit that behavior and leverage in a way that wasn't leveraged before by somebody else.
Yeah, I tend to agree. And I think so much of this is about creating value exchange with customers, right? That's something that people are always looking for. The traditional form of advertising, in my opinion, right? Your 320 by 50s or your ads on Facebook or Meta, whatever you want to call it, right? I don't know that there's a strong implied value exchange with customers, and your average consumer probably sees thousands of ads every day. Some of them they're aware of, some of them they're completely unconscious to, right? So I think a lot of the work that we do is centered on this idea of how do we value consumer time and how do we create compelling experiences for them where they want to give their attention to us or attention to a particular game for a particular period of time. And that's what a lot of these platforms allow us to do.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Time is very precious these days, and making sure you understand at what moment you can leverage some of the people's time when it's like they're sticking to a few apps they're using on a daily basis. And you're absolutely right. I'm sure if you ask somebody how many ads have you seen today, they will be just clueless. That they will give you just a few advertising they've seen, for the last hour or so, but they're not aware how many ads they're seeing on a daily basis. It's just part of the landscape for them. Let's talk about something else. How does Adjoe balance such things as personalization and user privacy and enhancing loyalty programs for mobile apps? These two things are really hard to reconcile.
Yeah, they are and they're not at the same time, right? I think we're squarely of the belief that consent is consent in our space, right? And we as a business pride ourselves on the fact that we will never collect any privacy or any data on someone who doesn't consent to us collecting that data, as it's related to what they might be doing on their smartphone or their preferences or whatever the case may be. So when you enter our experience for the first time, you're hit with a number of prompts that essentially ask for your consent, right? Users are not obligated to say yes to any of these prompts, but if they do, it enhances our ability to personalize their experience, right? Personalization, obviously for a platform like ours, and in general for any platform, is I think rather key to success, right? Are we, there's the old ad saying, right? Right ad, right user, right time, right? And if we aren't able to achieve that in some capacity, the game studios will see poorer performance with us, right? And so everything we do, I think, is an amalgamation of leveraging our machine learning to understand, what is a user telling us about their behavior? Meaning, what are we actually noticing with them as it's related to their engagement with our games on our arcade solution? What games are they already playing? And how does this inform the kinds of games and titles we want to show them in the future in order to create an awesome experience for them, right? If we're not doing a great job of this, conversion rates go down or quality goes down. One of the two is going to happen inevitably, and neither are beneficial for us or the game studios, or most importantly, the end consumer, right? So everything that we do is really geared around, again, how do we create value exchange, but how do we create value exchange in a way that matters for a particular individual, right? And the way we do that is by giving people rewards, rewarding them for time, rewarding them for even playing a game for 1 minute, which is something that we do with a lot of our partners, all the way to saying this user has played 10 different types of match 3 titles. Chances are they're going to like another kind of match 3 title, or maybe there is another analogous kind of game similar to that kind of game that they're going to be interested in. So much of the work we do is around personalization on top of that value exchange, and it's key to us, but it all starts with getting consent from consumers that we can in fact use some level of their data in order to inform decisions we make about what kind of games we show them.
Gotcha. So creating value exchange on that scale with that many users, like you said, involves using AI. But I'm not going to ask you about AI anymore, like we agreed at the beginning. No, not touching that topic. But just generally, this is the way you can actually continue to grow the scale of your network and being able to deliver that value exchange for so many people because they have so diverse lives, so different interests, preferences. There's certain patterns, but still, right?
Well, and the scope of verticals in the gaming space is enormous, right? I mean, there are so many different genres of games that someone could play or have an interest in, and there's so many genres of games that someone might have zero interest in, right? When we think about something like comparing, an RPG role-playing game to, a match 3 title, like I mentioned before, right? Those are worlds apart, and if you're not able to identify that those are such different kinds of games and such different kinds of consumer experiences, you are not going to deliver a good end result for anyone involved in the transaction or anyone involved in the experience itself, right? And so much of our work is about identifying things and games that really matter for particular consumers.
What emerging technologies or trends do you anticipate will have a significant impact on mobile engagement strategies in the next couple of years?
I think, again, really two things, but they're all tied to the same thing, which is value exchange, right? We engage consumers and we keep them engaged by actually creating some benefit for them, right? So much of the mobile space, performance marketing space, in my opinion, for so long has been very transactional in nature, right? Download this game, maybe hit our cohorted metrics for 30 days or something like that, and what you do thereafter is no longer as important to us, right? Not saying that's everyone's mentality, right? But there is a somewhat myopic or short-sighted view of how we can engage consumers and keep them engaged in particular products, right? What I think I'm seeing more and more of is platforms like ours emerging as a source through which game studios and performance marketers can get higher levels of engagement with new user acquisition. And to me, that comes from the idea of creating salient value for users, right? Or said otherwise, how do we translate your digital experiences, your gaming experiences, into real life benefit for you as a user? There's the inherent real life benefit of entertainment on its own has value to people, right? But there are other ways to create really interesting value for consumers that has even more of an impact on how they engage with your products, right? And generally speaking, I think that means, again, providing them some sort of value exchange. So in the case of Fetch, it means giving them Fetch points for playing our games. In the case of Atlas Reality, it means giving them, some crypto dollars in exchange for playing our games that they can then go and use in Atlas Reality. I see a whole world, however, in which this could expand far beyond those examples that I mentioned into other kinds of verticals, right? For example, McDonald's is a perfect example of a platform that has an extraordinary loyalty program in My Rewards, right? McDonald's challenge is people only get My Rewards when they buy a hamburger today, right? But people don't buy McDonald's hamburgers every day. They do play games every day, right? So what does a world look like if people were able to play a game like Candy Crush and earn more My Rewards points for that, right? For Candy Crush, it means they've translated gameplay into real-world value, right? Something that someone can go and use these points to buy, a dinner for their family, whatever the case may be. In the case of McDonald's, it means they can put points into their ecosystem at no cost to their own business. And for the user, it's an awesome experience because they got that entertainment that's inherent in all of gaming, as well as the ability to make more purchases with a product that maybe they like quite a bit at a lower cost for them, right? So it's a win-win-win situation. That's how I think we create real long-term engagement for performance marketers for game studios. It's about translating gameplay into real-life experience outside of just entertainment. So I could see more and more game studios, even outside of a platform like ours, looking to find more ways to enhance real-world experiences for their customers, right? Whether it's merchandising, whether it's creating stronger partnerships with brands that people visit all the time, right? What does a world look like in which a game finds a way to partner with Amazon or with Uber or Lyft, things like that, right? I think there's a lot of runway for us to explore how engagement can be impacted through real-world connections between the digital gaming environment and what you do in your day-to-day.
Yeah, I see, Tommy. So the real trick, in a good sense, is that somebody who comes to play a game, he's expecting to play a game. Like his intention to spend some time, be distracted from heavy thoughts and just be entertained. And the trick is that you have to introduce that person to extra value you're providing to her or him, and that should make sense. Like show them that they can make more. They can do more with just playing a game, and having those benefits of improving their mood, spending the rest of the day being upbeat because they have a nice play in the game. On top of that, you're providing them more, and on the flip side, you're helping companies that, just like you're saying, cannot interact with their customers on a daily basis. You're helping them to grow because you're providing them a new channel through the game to get extra value, right?
I 100% agree. That's well said. And I also think it's worth saying, like, there are very, very few truly unique games at this point, right? Now, there are game-changing games, right? When you think of like Subway Surfers or Angry Birds or Clash of Clans or Candy Crush, there's a huge litany of games that have really changed this market, right? But there's also a lot of redundancy in the gaming space, right? Think about solitaire games, for example, or even just think about like sports betting, which, to be clear, is not a vertical we work in, right? But there are tons of options for a consumer, right? And so as a game studio or as a general performance marketer or any sort of publisher, the question needs to be, how do we differentiate against everyone else? And I think one of the easiest ways to differentiate and one of the most impactful ways to differentiate is by translating gameplay into something that has material value to someone in their daily life outside of the instant payoff of quick entertainment, right? And that's truly what I believe our platform does. It's allowing these games to draw that connection without having to do any dev work, any sort of integrations, anything like that, right? It allows them to say, you like playing Coin Master a lot, right? Well, now you can play it and you can earn fetch points, and those fetch points then can be redeemed to go buy an Xbox for your kid at Christmas this year, whatever the case may be, right? That's what it means when we create real world value for people, and that's how we, I think, deliver really, really strong long-term retention and engagement within these games.
That's a great point, Tommy. All right, my final question. How can people get in touch with you and get more information about what you do?
Well, my name is Tommy Yannopoulos. I think on LinkedIn it's Thomas, Thomas. Adjoe.io, adjoe.io. I would argue that if you're a performance marketer, we have solutions for you. If you are a brand looking to find interesting, innovative ways to engage with your customers and drive incremental engagement and incremental monetization, boy, do we have a solution for you, and we'd love to talk about it at any point. You can reach out to us through our website. You can reach out to me directly at Thomas, Thomas, at adjoe.io, adjoe.io. I'm also coincidentally the host of a podcast on our side, which is called Mass Appeal, Massappeal. On that podcast, I wouldn't say we've done even close to as many episodes as Art, and I don't think I'm as good as Art at doing this, but we try our best, and we talk to all sorts of people in the space about monetization strategies, growth strategies, etc. So there's a bunch of ways you can reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you, and again, I think we have solutions for just about anyone that's looking to grow or monetize their application today.
Terrific, Tommy. Thank you so much for coming back on the show and spending time with us and being really helpful and insightful today. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Always happy to join. Thanks, Art.
And that was Thomas Yannopoulos, VP of Revenue, Americas at Adjoe. To listen to more episodes, subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube podcasts. Just search for Business of Apps and you will find us easily. Remember, we release episodes on Mondays, so subscribe and you will be able to get new episodes of the show on your smartphone, tablet, or computer if you still listen podcasts on your computer. And please don't forget to leave a review or comment on iTunes. It is highly appreciated. And all episodes will also be available on businessofapps.com. Thank you for listening. See you next week.